What if Deku ate the dragon fruit? Now first, we need to break down this devil fruit, which might take a while, but you need to know the abilities and so stay with me here. The user is granted multiple supernatural abilities. The most prominent of them being the ability to create flame-shaped clouds to travel airborne using them as footholds. Additionally, the user gains access to multiple varieties of element attacks they can perform within their mouth. The most common of these being concentrated fire blasts, which can travel many kilometers in the span of seconds and instantly destroy entire structures and landmarks and land masses that it hits. Additionally, the user can generate small lightning bolts while roaring and launch blades of wind while blowing. With these attacks being able to travel at great distances, the user can overwhelm opponents in battle by hovering in the air out of their reach and assault them with attacks. Due to the user's massive body, their body is capable of causing severe damage to entire structures just by being in contact with them. So, the Uo nomi, aka the fish fruit, model dragon, this fruit allows the user to become a massive serpent-like dragon. Weaknesses? I guess small spaces. Now, I got a joke for y'all. What sound do you hear when a dragon decides to use black pepper? The sounds of a fire alarm. Now, when Izuku was around 3 years old, his mom would have had to work overtime due to her husband never being around. Even though he did send money back from time to time, one day while out of the house, Inko would bump into an old man with a basket, making him drop his things and someone even go onto the busy street. The old man looked poor, and with concern in her eyes, Inko would bend down and ask, "Are you okay?" while helping him pick up his things off the ground. While everyone else just walked by and told them to move out the way, there was one fruit that was still in the street and a car was approaching it, about to run over it. Inko would use her quirk to make it come into her hands. "What is this?" she would ask while looking at the fruit which had weird patterns on it. The man would start to explain that he found it in the forest under a tree. "Thanks for helping me, miss. You can have it as thanks for now. I better be on my way." The man would finish collecting his things and would leave before Inko could protest. She would decide to take it home. "Izuku, I'm home," she would say while opening the door, walking in to find her little baby walking around in front of the TV. Inko would bend down and say, "Look, Mama got you a treat," as she brought out the devil fruit from her bag and she would accidentally drop it. Izuku would run over to it, falling over and crawling to pick it up. "Wait, no, let me try it first to make sure it's safe," Inko would say and start to hold out her hand, but it was already too late. Izuku had already taken a bite into it and would start to cough uncontrollably and throw up. While growing up, Izuku would always notice that he is different. He could withstand more amounts of heat than a normal person, and his skin and overall durability was on a whole different level. For example, one time when Deku was playing at the park, him and his friends would have ran into the street. Well, Izuku would have ran into the street, I don't know about his friends, they smart. And he wasn't paying attention, and he would get hit by a car going around 30 miles per hour. But he would seemingly come out unfazed with only a few scratches on him. The boys would have vowed to never tell his mother about this because she would flip out. One day during the preschool day, like around midway, Deku would feel his mouth burning, and so was his whole body. This was around the day Bakugo had awakened his quirk. Deku would get up from his seat and limp towards the teacher's desk. "Hello? I'm not feeling well. I think I have a fever," he would say to the teacher, and the teacher would pull out a thermometer from her desk and put it inside his mouth. After a few seconds, the results would end up being 2.48 million Skillaville, or whatever the fuck it is, units. The teacher would scream and Deku would feel his mouth burning more, and he would look up to the ceiling and a huge beam of fire would burst out, hitting the roof, making a big hole in it, and Rumble would start to fall onto the ground. The teacher would call the principal, and they would call the fire department, doctors, and even his mother. After a few hours of testing, the doctors would give the report to Inko and Izuku. We've never seen this before, but your son doesn't seem to have the quirk bone, but he certainly has a dragon type quirk. Or flame type quirk. Due to this, we have decided to name the power or quirk Kaiser. The abilities we have found so far is that he can generate flame type clouds as footholds to fly in the air. He can also use them to lift other objects, including entire islands or buildings. He can release a massive amount of heat blast from his mouth, and I guess you said your father has something like that. The blast is able to travel very quickly and extremely powerfully, and he can even become more powerful as he grows. He can even when he blows, he can generate powerful wind blades capable of cutting through solid stone. And it looks like if he masters this power, he can find out more abilities and even turn into a huge dragon or even a hybrid form. And on top of this, he has great durability. We would like to keep him in the lab for around 7 to 10 p.m. days so we could train him and find out more. Inko would agree to this, and we would cut to the scene where Deku is fighting Bakugo as a child, which he wouldn't even receive the name Deku anymore. He would be called Ryujin, which meant great god of the sea. Deku would be more feared throughout the school, and people would call him a beast, but Bakugo and his lackeys still wanted to fight him. "Let's get him!" Bakugo would yell while pointing at Deku, and the other two kids would look at each other and start to say, "I don't know, Bakugo. He's very scary." Deku would start to get frustrated and tell them that they should leave before anyone gets hurt. "You think you're better than me, Zuku? Huh?" Bakugo would start to yell while rushing in with an explosion in his hands which hit Deku in the chest, causing a smoke cloud. Once the smoke cleared, Deku would seem unfazed and green scales would be covering the area where Bakugo had attacked him. Deku would smile. "Is that all you got?" he would say while looking at Bakugo, and would start to explain that even bullets could not hurt him. Deku would continue to say, "Now, let's get started." His voice would get deeper and more raspy, and this would scare the three boys. Deku letting out a roar with oh my god, shit, how do you spell that? Ferocity? Yeah, shit, sorry. That would make gray clouds start to form and lightning start to flash down, even hitting the equipment at the park. The roar was so loud that it can be heard from 400 miles away, and all of the neighbors would start to rush out their houses to check out what's going on. And as they rushed to the park, they would see Deku standing there tall, with 4 kids passed out on the floor at his feet. The sound of the shout was so loud that he had knocked them out, almost like Conqueror's Hawk if you think about it. Deku would pick up his book bag and start to leave, with everyone being scared to go near him. Deku's behavior would slowly get more and more uncontrollably over the years, and time again, his mom would get reports about her son. This would even leave her people to be more reluctant about hiring her in jobs, all because of her son, and which made her get slowly more depressed and gain all the weight that she already had it in the original story, and she would become more of an alcoholic. This was the 8th time that she had gotten fired from her job because of her son, and she had had enough of it. Deku is around 11 years old, which is pretty important to the story. Once Deku walked through the door, His mom would throw a bottle of booze at him, which hit him and shattered into pieces. "Look what you did again, brat! Why did you even come home?" His mother, Inku, would yell at him and would order him to get in the car. Izuku, with great respect for his mother, and blamed himself for everything that was going on so far. So, let me just trim what happened. Deku's mother would have tied him up, drove him into some shady ass man, alright? He would have got inside a car, alright, some type of white van, probably some type of freaking kidnapping. And they would have drove him over 700,000 miles into the forest and dropped him off there, aka abandoned him there. Yes, this is sad. Yes, yeah, whatever. Kind of. But then again, this is a major development to the story, and things will get better for him. So just keep on watching. So wipe those tears and get that popcorn because you're in for a wild ride. Deku would be stuck in the forest for about 5 years, having to kill animals and adapt to his surroundings just to survive. As the months went by, this would have made him adapt to become more of an animal, becoming what you would call a savage. Giving his primal instincts would have boosted his devil fruit powers and even his base senses, which enabled him to transform into a full dragon by the 3rd year this was over. Deku would always have scars on his body because he would fight with the wild beasts that had quirks. Anything you can imagine, alright, it's there. 7-headed turtle that can breathe fire, is there. That slug that can spit acid, shit, it's there too. Yeah, it's kind of scary, but who knows? It would take Deku around 5 years to arrive back at his hometown from just walking. All ragged up and full of wounds, he would walk/limp around looking for his old house. As he kept walking around, civilians would look at him in a weird way because he was so beaten up and of what he looked like. As he kept walking around, Deku would walk under the same bridge as if he was in the original anime, and the sludge villain would come out the sewers, and Deku, using his primal instincts, or better say, instincts, would have enhanced his senses, and he would have sensed this coming. By the dragon fruit, yeah. He would get on all 4 legs, or all 4s, his hands and feet, like a dog, and start to charge a big fire beam in his mouth. He would shoot this at the sludge villain, which was kind of out of control, and not only hit the sludge villain, but also hit the wall behind it, causing miles and miles of huge dents, which gladly didn't hurt anyone. All Might would arrive late, and Deku, still being in the state of an animal, would start to attack All Might, sending out a huge roar of wind, which All Might would have to dig his hands into the building beside him, or the wall beside him, just for him to stay kind of in place. Once Deku snapped back to his senses and realizes what he was doing, he would start to say, "I'm sorry," and stop the attack. All Might would tell him that he has a good and powerful ability, but he has to get control of it. He would then tell Deku that he should go home, and he would then deflate into Small Might. Deku wouldn't be shocked by this because he would have just thought it's a transformation quirk. And to be honest, I don't even think he knows who All Might is. He hasn't really looked up to any heroes, just trying to take care of his mom that abandoned this poor child. That's sad. All Might would have started to explain everything about the injury and how he had a time limit and how he was looking for a successor. Seeing how powerful your quirk is, young man, I want to make you an offer. Would you like to gain my quirk? Deku would reluctantly say no because he doesn't want anyone else's power because he's already burned it with his own. Yeah, you would have thought that having all that power would actually be a good thing. Sometimes having a lot of power isn't always the best part. Same goes with money and shit. All Might would be disappointed that Deku had declined, and he would go back to saying that Deku should go home or else his parents would be worried about him. Deku, with a stern slash sad look, would start to explain to All Might that he doesn't have parents, and he would start to go through his whole entire life about how his mother abandoned him. All Might, being the OG he is, would offer to take Deku in and adopt him, and Deku, had not having any other choice, seemingly, would agree. So over the 10 months, he would be training with All Might more intensively, 24/7, because Deku, or Ryujin, whatever you want to call him, is kind of a monster. He's a monster. All Might cannot even fight this dude. I mean, if you're stuck in the forest for 5 years, fighting God knows what, I feel like you would be a monster too. It's either you die or you come back OP. Like, as the training would have consisted of Deku mostly trying to control his quirk so that he didn't have to destroy massive amounts of land mass from one attack when it was not needed. Once the 10 months was over, Deku had around roughly 89% control over his abilities, and All Might would try to bring down Deku's ego a lot, because Deku was a monster, if I have not told you that already. Deku not really having anyone that really cared about him that much, or not having anyone that cared about him at all, would start to grow attached to All Might, looking at him as a father figure, so also as a mentor figure, which would lead him to always going 120% everything that he did, always trying to make his master happy. On the day that entrance exams, All Might would inform Deku that he wouldn't be taking the regular exams. He would be doing an alternative exam, which was called the exam for people that got recommended to UA. Deku almost failing the written exam because he's not that smart. Even though All Might does go over like written stuff with him, he doesn't really pay attention to that. This would make him have to go even further beyond plus ultra in the combat exam, which is kind of like the original but way different. All the robots are the size of 0-pointers and even bigger. While getting ready for the exam to start, he was briefly spot Momo and Todoroki talking to each other and people looking at him. Before the announcer can even count to the number 3, Deku would squat down and propel himself into the air using thundercloud-shaped thingamajiggies to make it look like he's flying. He would start to kill robots or destroy them with his bare fist, punching left and right, destroying 4 massively sized 0-pointers, which were worth more points than in the original exam, with one of them being worth 5 points. Yeah, 5 points. Deku going around sending out heat beams, ice beams, and even wind beams at the robots would start destroying them over and over, and in the middle of the exam he would have about 180 points. As the other students started to get more closer, All Might would be viewing everything from behind the monitor. He would start to smile and look at Nezu, which is a small rat dude, Master Splinter. He would tell Nezu that it was time for them to release the Humonguli. He would then push Nezu aside and click the red button that was in front of him, and a huge, ginormous, I can't even tell you, it looks like the colossal titan, alright, would come out from the ground, making the whole entire ground shake. Six of them would come out the ground and all surround Izuku. they would all start to punch Izuku down into the ground, which he was sent there and with massive speeds and made a big, huge crater going miles and miles deep into the ground. All the participants would start to run away to the safe zone, and the six humongous humonguli would start to punch Izuku over and over and over again, pushing him deeper and deeper into the ground. Mostly all the students would start to mumble rest in peace, and some of them would get out across and start doing the hand signs. Cause anybody that says this would be dead. Momo and Todoroki, they already know that these robots are out of their league. Deku slowly opening his eyes because he was tired from pulling an all-nighter watching anime would start to go mad. He would start to, like, he was feeling it a little bit, but not too much. Next thing that everyone knew, they would hear a humongous, ferocious roar coming from the ground as the sky started to go black and lightning would start to crackle everywhere. Most of the students would become unconscious, and a lot of them had to close their ears. Even the students taking the regular exam, could hear this too. The next moment, all they could see was a humongous green dragon rising up from the floor, which would have been Izuku. Izuku being angry, to say that's not even good enough. Izuku being extremely mad would start to mix up a bunch of elements inside of his mouth. The elements being lightning, fire, water, ice, and anything else you could think of. Actually, that's enough elements. And the wind would blast them at all six robots from over 40 miles in the air. Actually, not even 40 miles. Over 400,000 miles in the air, and it would hit all six robots, causing a big explosion as Kaido did in the Wano arc. Actually, this is the end for part 1, because if you guys like this, I'll do part 2. I tried to make it really different. So, comment down if you like it, and I'll do a part 2. And what if Deku had all black will be coming out next weekend, because it hasn't even been out for a week yet, and it's already blowing up. So let's give that what if some time to grow. I'll be uploading other what ifs part 2s and part 3s. Bye.